Hello, everybody. Welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition for July 11th, 2012. Man, we just made it. I'll tell you what, it was a little tight there, but we're pretty much on time. It's 8:01 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone.
I like things tight.
Yes.
Wow.
All
Already
right.
getting started.
Woo!
I miss one week, and this is what happens.
And of course, to my right is whoa, why am I getting an echo here? I have the volume. Oh, I see. I gotta mute that. There we go.
To your right is an echo.
Why does that keep happening?
I don't know.
There we go. Should be all set. I apologize, folks. To my right is Chris Rose. Chris was not here last week and missed a very fun show.
I always miss the fun shows.
You always miss the fun shows, but you can watch them all on QCnews.com and, of course, IPMNation.com. We are in the QCnews.com studio. I believe this is Studio F.
Hello, F Frank.
Hello, ladies.
Hello. Welcome
to Studio F. And
hello, Barry White.
And Glenn R.J. Willett will be joining us in a moment as well. Glenn has a big announcement to make. Glenn has reached a milestone. What? Oh,
and he's on the phone.
And he's answering the phone. You guys can't hear it, but I can actually hear Glenn in the other studio answering his phone saying, hello, QCnews.com. Can I help you? Or whatever he says.
But yes, he has some very big news to share with us.
Very big news.
Anyone who is a fan of QC News or his program on TV23 knows something about what he's been talking about for a long time now. So
absolutely,
we'll wait for him to come in and tell us.
I need Chris.
Okay, nice.
We're on the air, but we're not because you didn't sign in.
Oh.
All right. We'll be right back.
I thought I did sign in. Or you mean we're not broadcasting? I don't know what's going on, folks, but yes, I did actually. Okay, well, I don't know why. So anyway, I'm sorry. I'm having a conversation with Glenn, and you can't hear Glenn's side of the conversation. But anyway, so I'm going to open Skype for anyone who wants to communicate with us. The Skype ID is IPM Nation. And I love the sound that Skype makes when it opens. Are we okay in there?
Everything is okay. We are live.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry about that, folks.
Let's listen to this. I love the sound. Hopefully the mic picked that up. I love the sound of Skype.
I do love, yeah.
It's just a cool sound.
It is. It's even better than You've Got Mail from 1996.
Yes, that's right. And also, so you can Skype with us, and also, of course, you can send us a text at 603-344-6491 if you'd like to opine on anything that we discussed during the show.
Good word.
Opine?
Opine.
Yes.
I believe we have a dictionary over here. Let me
we do,
reach right over you.
Are you going to look up opine?
I'm going to look up opine.
Because I know we talked a little bit, was it last week on the show we talked about the difference between a mandate? Were you here for that conversation?
I don't know if I was here for that conversation.
Okay.
I apologize. I was... suppose, usually humorous, opine.
Opine, yes.
Excuse me, usually humorous, like this show.
It doesn't have to be humorous. Please don't take my use of the word opine to mean that if you do opine, it has to be something humorous. It can be serious, or it could be humorous. If you want it to be something whimsical and farcical, if perhaps you have an amusing limerick, that's fine too. Glenn R.J. Willett has joined us. Glenn, you have a big, stellar announcement that all the fans of QCE News and Willett at Large Gone Global, and of course this show, everybody is aware of your ongoing situation, and apparently there has been a breakthrough. Glenn, what is your announcement? Please tell us. This is exciting. This is very exciting, folks. This is a big deal.
That we the people really have power. We have to be patient.
We have the power.
They make us go through the process and over again, hoping that we will just resign and let them have their way as a government. Well, it didn't happen that way. After going to court and they've repealed it. It hasn't even gone back to court yet, but they were threatening to take away my house, my Section 8, which is the only thing I haven't lost yet. I lost everything else. And I said, enough is enough. So I went, a lady, I need to thank Millie. Millie is a great fan of the QCE News and of Channel 23. And she drove me to Concord, where I met in the governor's office with representatives from the governor's office, representatives from the Secretary of State, representative from the Attorney General's office. And I says, enough is enough. And the question was, didn't the city take care of that in March when we were told to butt out and they were going to take care of it? I says, no, they didn't. Well, they've gone too far. So That was Monday. On Friday, when I did my TV show, they obviously had called me, and somehow my phone didn't ring, or I didn't hear it, but they put a message. And on Monday, I called them back and says, "Come on down and get your ID." So I did. And it is so tremendous how the government, they talk about fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always maintained that the most of the fraud, what's that?
Are we on demo mode again?
Looks like the camera is on demo mode, folks.
You want
I
to
think
take it
I can-
off again, please?
I think I can figure
Yeah.
this one out.
Hence the psychedelics, although it
Yeah.
does make the show interesting. It's
Black
like,
and white.
ooh, look at that. That's like the
Look
video.
at you, you get two heads.
For a second there, it was like the video for When Doves Cry by Prince, which I was obsessed with when I was a kid.
The mirror effect.
Yes.
So anyway, I went to get my ID and I gave them the book that all kinds of things that they didn't need to know. And they finally said, "Why did you bring all this stuff down? Because you guys have been asking for it for over a year, and I've been bringing it down, and you haven't been saying it." So anyway, she said, "Do you want to have your picture stay in the system?" I says, "Do I have to?" She says, "No, you've never committed a crime, so you don't have to." So I said, "Then I don't." She says, "Do you want your Social Security to be on your card?" I said, "Do I have to?" She says, "Again, you're not a criminal. You have no criminal record, so you don't have to."
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "No." And their response was, "That's why the government's not helping you, because you're being difficult."
Oh.
I says, "You gave me a choice, and I picked my choice, my right to pick that choice. It's because you don't like the choice.
Mm-hmm.
You just told me it was my right." So then I put down that I weighed 152 pounds, and they insisted that I weigh 195. And I said, "Well, where's the scale?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, but to beat around the bush and not get them angry, said, "Give me my ID."
Yes. Or to not beat around the bush.
So
in this case.
I got a temporary 2-month ID, and within that time I should be getting my
Drum roll.
And it's
The mic. Yeah.
it's horrible because I will regain that weight, and I'm stuck with that picture for 5
There it
years.
is.
There it is.
It's horrible.
An actual. Can you hold that up, Glenn, so
Well,
everyone
it's
can
in
see it?
black and white.
That is an actual state of New Hampshire non-driver identification.
Temporary.
Temporary. And so what happens? You get a permanent one in the mail?
I should get it within 2 months. If I don't,
That is exciting. You are now officially a real person in
yes.
the United States of America.
The only thing is the only fraud on this card they created.
Is the guy in the picture? Oh.
I know.
Ba-dum-bum.
It really does not look like me. It looks like me when I'm probably 100 years old. It's
Oh,
horrible. It
really?
really looks horrible.
Well,
you can
it's
tell I lost a lot of weight. I
it's-
You
still
have.
have it. I still have it stuck. I still have it in my throat.
it's
I still
a
have all the wrinkles in the throat from the weight loss.
Hair brown? Really?
Yeah, well, it's going to be brown soon. It's going to go back to its natural color.
oh, you're gonna diet?
Yeah. So now I have to wait about 60 months, 60 days, I should say, to get back some of my services, if any, but at least
Well,
they
the temporary ID should be sufficient
At
enough.
least I
Yes.
haven't. I will getting my Social Security card back in 2 weeks. Losing today, if you don't have an ID, you don't have a life.
No.
You lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You're not in their system. As far as you're concerned, you are dead.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Well,
amazing how many people in the city of Manchester know who you are, despite not having an ID.
I know.
Yep.
Especially the government people who say, "We help you, Mr. Willett." Oh, we can't help you. You don't have an ID.
Yes.
You just call me Mr. Willett. Who do you think I am, a fraud? No, but
Who's
we
a
can't
fraud
help
of
you.
the big bad wolf?
So anyway, I'm glad that that's over with.
Well, congratulations,
Congratulations.
Glenn.
When you mentioned the Attorney General, I figured you won a victory for Magic Jack, where we could actually get a 603 number, but that's never going to happen.
That's in the process.
Yes.
Is it possible that when you went and you talked to these people and they called you by your name, that perhaps they suspected that you might have actually been your evil twin Nelg?
Like my twin brother that supposedly died, and I stole his check, but I never had a twin brother. And
Right.
it took him 5.5 months to finally admit that I'd never had a twin brother.
Yes.
Nelk J.R. Roulette.
And we have a government, both in the state, in the city, and in the federal government, that will correct their mistakes once they have to by court laws or by people who say, "Hey, you can't be doing this."
Yes.
But they will not reimburse you. They never admit to a mistake. They only correct it.
right.
Somebody made a mistake, we'll correct it. They made the mistake.
Yes.
And they'll never acknowledge that either.
That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. Chris, anything? I'm sorry.
We
were
should
going to
make
say-
one announcement starting tomorrow night, Thursday night for now, for the next 5 Thursdays.
Yes.
Downtown Manchester, the organization is sponsoring through TD Bank the 5 weekly Thursday night band concerts at
Yeah.
Veterans Park, which we will be televising.
Very good.
And we'll talk about that later after the show. But that starts at 7, I believe. So, go ahead.
Oh, very
It's
good.
your show.
Let's see. The first thing I want to get into, actually, and I'm going to close this out. I am always impressed, gentlemen, when someone goes against the grain and disagrees with their own party. Because as an independent, and you're both independents as well, and you'll probably agree with me on this, is there is not enough independent thought within the two parties. And this is a problem that I think has grown over time. You know, we talk a lot on this show about how in Washington you have, there's no conservative Democrats anymore. There's no liberal to moderate Republicans.
No.
It's nothing but everyone is either, well, I don't want to say necessarily on the fringes of their party, but, you know, in the Republican Party, you know, you have a lot of the Tea Partiers that have really pulled the party to the right. The Democratic Party is mostly liberal. There aren't a lot of what you would call, the old the blue dog Democrats. There's not too many of those left either.
Newly independents are only there by title because they couldn't get elected as a Democrat or Republican.
Right, like Joe Lieberman, for example. And there's another example of that. I forget who it is now. Lisa Murkowski, I believe, in Alaska.
Yeah.
Isn't she an independent? Because she got primaried by a Tea Partier.
Yeah, and she was a Republican before.
Right, exactly.
But you know, I want to beg to defer what you just said. I really think that some of these people, especially like Lieberman and especially this Murkowski from Alaska, I know why they changed their party. It's not because they couldn't get elected by the Democrats. The Democratic Party or the Republican Party, excuse the language, screwed them. Well, and they finally said, you know what, we're going to become independents.
In Lieberman's case, the Democrats were
upset because he was voting with Republicans as well.
Yeah.
And they had another Democrat nominee who was getting favorable numbers as the Democrat nominee.
Right.
So Lieberman decided he was
you know what it was, you know, the parties have a fit when they find out that you belong to their party, Republican or Democrat, and you vote for the opposition because you're doing what you think is right for this country, not what is right for the party.
Dare you.
Right.
That's why the moderates are all
fight
gone.
For the people.
Right. Well, that actually, and you know, tonight on Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, Gary and I, Gary S. Hopper, the Honorable Gary S. Hopper, New Hampshire state legislator, we had on as our guest Lee Quant, who is also in the state legislature, a Republican. And something that Gary and Lee have in common is they both voted against the right to work bill. You know, they're both pro-union guys, and that puts them at odds with their party, and they both had to take the proverbial spanking from leadership. Both of them being removed from the committees that they were on at the time. And you know, this is because it's so common now for everyone in both parties, Republican and Democrat. There's all this pressure to really walk in lockstep. So I'm impressed, and I really respect Gary, and I respect this gentleman Lee as well. Even though I may disagree with them on many issues because they're far more conservative than I'm likely to ever be, but I really respect and admire. Whenever I see anyone in either party say, okay, well, I disagree with my party on this issue, even if it's only one issue and absolutely everything else they're in full agreement with their party. Whenever anyone has the political courage, because it really does, we exist in an era where it takes a certain amount of political courage to stand up and say, I disagree on this and I'm not afraid to tell you. Well,
there are not too many people like us, is there?
There are not. There are not. Chris Christie, Republican.
A good meatball.
Do you know what Fox said today about Chris Christie?
Well, hold that thought, Glenn, because let's. Fox called him fat.
What was left of the Republican Party, they're out of touch. They're either fat or they're old and they belong to the Tea Party.
That was Ed Rollins specifically who said that, a Republican strategist.
Is that on Fox? That was on Fox.
That was on Fox, yes.
That's why I thought I heard it.
Yes.
Chris Christie.
Disgusting.
Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey.
He's a whole lot of man. He's a big dude. But Chris Christie, this will be the second time on this show that I have felt compelled, to go out of my way to really praise Chris Christie. Now, there are things about Chris Christie I don't like and that I disagree with. But the first time that I praised him, and if I had the audio up, I'd play a little bit of it for you, but I didn't think of it until now. The first time I praised him was he had nominated a judge for the State Circuit Court in New Jersey whose last name was Muhammad something. I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy's Muslim. And of course, you have all the fringe, these extreme right-wingers in New Jersey coming out and saying, how can you nominate a Muslim to be for the State Circuit Court or State Supreme Court, whatever it was, And, he's obviously, because all Muslims, they're really secretly terrorists. And, you start nominating Muslim judges today, tomorrow we'll have Sharia law, and these crazy, crazy people. And Chris Christie, in his way that he does, he's very blunt and he does not pull any punches. And Chris Christie held the press conference. And instead of trying to kind of make nice with these people and say, well, I disagree with the fringe of the party, or however, whatever the nice way of saying it would be, where, because whichever party you belong to, you have to really sort of coddle the extremists, because if you, or they'll punish you. But Chris Christie didn't do that. Chris Christie came out and said, look, I'm tired of dealing with the crazies. Sharia law has nothing to do with Muhammad, whatever his name was. He's a great person. I've known him personally for 20 years or whatever. He'll make a great judge. He's not a terrorist. You people who are calling me out on nominating him are crazy, and I'm sick of dealing with the crazies. I'm paraphrasing, but he was very blunt and right in their faces with it. And I thought it was great. Again, this is another case. Now, this isn't him going off on anybody and being blunt, and as he is
Christie ways.
But right, this wasn't an aggressive thing, but this was at a speech that he gave. This just happened actually yesterday, I believe. And this is I want to give credit to this is from the njnow.com/news. It's a New Jersey news site. The title of the article is Governor Chris Christie says war on drugs is a failure.
It certainly is.
Yes. And this is a short article, but I'll read it to you quickly. Governor Chris Christie has a harsh view on the 40-year-old war on drugs. It doesn't work. Quote, the war on drugs, while well-intentioned, has been a failure, unquote, the Republican governor said Monday during a speech at the Brookings Institution in Washington, according to a report by Huffington Post. He said, we're warehousing addicted people every day in state prisons in New Jersey, giving them no treatment, unquote. Christie's comments come after New Jersey lawmakers passed legislation recently that institutes a year of mandatory treatment for first-time, nonviolent drug offenders in lieu of jail time. The program is set to be activated in at least 3 counties during its first year and will expand across the state over the next 5 years. Christie said, quote, if you're pro-life as I am, you can't be pro-life just in the womb. Every life is precious and every one of God's creatures can be redeemed, but they won't if we ignore them, unquote. He also argued that it makes economic sense. He said, quote, it costs us $49,000 a year to warehouse a prisoner in New Jersey state prisons last year. A full year of inpatient drug treatment costs $24,000 a year, unquote. So Chris Christie, at odds with what would be, I believe, the typical Republican position on this, coming out and saying, look, the war on drugs is a failure. And so for the second time on this show, I commend Chris Christie for having the courage to say something that a lot of conservatives are obviously upset with him about. They don't agree with him. He is one of the darlings of the modern Republican Party, but this really puts him at odds with a lot of the Republican narrative and a lot of the Democratic narrative too, frankly. The Democratic Party isn't, a lot of Democrats favor legalization of marijuana, but they don't necessarily go as far as he does to lay out a rational argument for why the current policy, this war on drugs, has both a human and an economic toll that is really, it does more harm than good, frankly. So I agree with him. I'm a libertarian on this issue. I'm for full legalization. I think I agree that the war on drugs is a complete failure, and it creates larger problems than it solves. You agree, Chris?
I agree.
Glenn, what do you think? Your thoughts?
We can't even pass in New Hampshire 2 years in a row now medical marijuana, let alone regular. I'm not sure that you would be able to or should be able to be allowed to take your lawn, your back lawn, and make it into a marijuana growing garden. But I'm also not too sure about how good government can grow the marijuana because all government programs, there's so much waste.
Mm-hmm.
Government does not do a good job.
No, I agree. That's why, like I say, I'm a libertarian on this. I'm not in favor of these ideas people have. Well, let's legalize it, but let the government regulate it, and you let people sell it in convenience stores or whatever, and then the government taxes it. And, no, I don't want to do any of that. I just want to legalize it. Just legalize it. Simple as that. We exist in a culture where if you want to drink yourself into a coma with alcohol, as long as you don't get as long as you're not operating a vehicle, the government doesn't care. You can do that. You can do no matter how much harm you want to do to yourself.
Right.
You can do it. Oh, but if say
you're caught with this much weed on you.
Yes, well then you're a dangerous criminal, and we have to lock you up in prison.
Absolutely.
It's insane.
I have to agree with Governor Chris Christie. He's correct. Even here in New Hampshire, we have people who are in prison because of pot. And while they're in prison, they're not working, so they're not contributing to our tax services. They're not productive citizens. And if they have a wife and kids, the state is taking care of them, so they're costing us money. So I agree with him.
Yes.
If they have a drug problem, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is, it does cost a lot less to get them into the program and get them out. Talk about welfare in jail. That's exactly what it is. In New Hampshire, it costs us $44,000 a year for every prisoner, and about $20,000 to get them off the drugs.
I'd like to point out that's more than I make in a yearly salary.
Same year. My God, it's 3 times what I make.
Yeah.
I make less than $10,000, so it's 4 times.
They get clothed.
Yes.
And they
get an education.
Well, they're not making that money, but they're spending.
They also get a free education
per prisoner. Now, what are the statistics? I don't know what the statistics are, but how many felons or how many criminals within the New Hampshire system are there specifically for marijuana use?
Let's see if I can find that.
Should be able to Google that, but I wouldn't
because
say
take that away,
felons,
you're looking at
felons is another category.
A shitload of money if you take just that portion away, because then you still have the cocaine users, you have the methamphetamine.
That's where the felon comes in. You're not a felon if you only have a little bit. There has to be a certain amount before you become a felon. So the little bit.
Don't get me wrong.
Why
those
would I
drugs
want
need to remain illegal?
Yes. It's more important that these people pay a fine. That's where the penalty comes in.
There's a YouTube clip on that?
I'm sure there is.
No, there's YouTube clips on everything.
It's less costly. It would be a lot less costly than paying a fine.
So in America, this is back from 2006, a study shows that nearly 1 in 8 U.S. drug prisoners are behind bars for pot.
And that's not much different.
That was 6 years ago.
Yeah, actually it's more now.
Oh, I can
imagine.
Going
up. We have more people in jail for no reason in this country than any other country in the world. We are suppressing people from actually taking part in our nation. We wonder why we have problems. We create so much of our own. Yeah. We really do.
Oh, absolutely. But you will never find anyone who will take that responsibility because as Americans, we're elitists. We expect only the best, even though we are not the #1 country in the world anymore.
That's right. I'm beginning to understand,
and nobody will admit that either.
Even though we're supposed to be the freest nation in the world, it's controlled a lot.
Our dollar's not the top anymore.
No.
We're not the highest in employment. We're not the highest in education. We're not high. We're the highest. Well, I can say that.
I'm having trouble finding anything specific to New Hampshire on that. I'll have to read.
There was one that was just New Hampshire. Go back.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was.
It didn't give you.
This isn't helpful. It's one of these. This isn't.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
So taking the statistic from 2006, that nationwide, it's 1 in 8 is pot users.
Yeah.
So let's say if we put that towards just New Hampshire, you're taking 1/8 of the population of prisoners in jail for drugs.
And both our state prisons are full, overloaded.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And, the Concord one holds 2,000, and the one in Berlin must hold another 2,000 because it's at least the same size, if not bigger. So let's say there's 4,000 state prisoners, and that doesn't include the women's prison. There's must be over 1,000 in there. So let's say there's 5,000 prisoners, state prisoners, and 8 and 1 would be what out of 5,000? Roughly. Who's quick?
We're doing math here now?
I'm not good at math.
I've got a calculator.
He who shall not be named texted me and pointed out that the United States holds 5% of the planet's population and contains 25% of the world's prison population.
There you go. There's the problem.
So a quarter of the planet's prison population is here in the U.S.
So are they trying to say that America must be such a bad country then for all in prison?
Well, you know what it is. It's because in America we lock everybody up for drug offenses.
And we don't
crazy.
offer any other alternatives. We don't offer any opportunities other than prison jail sentence.
Yes.
And just think, if they could find a reason to put me in prison, they certainly would.
Yes. What are you admitting to something, Glenn?
I've never committed a crime and I don't intend to.
Oh, okay.
The thing is, 3 days in jail sobered up my ass, but that doesn't mean it's going to sober up somebody else.
Right. Glenn is taking a call live on the air.
Treatment. That will help.
Yes. So,
he hates his smartphone.
Oh, I know.
Yes, I hate that because the touch thing doesn't recognize my thumb.
No.
Well, it's because your thumb doesn't have an ID.
I'm one of a kind.
Let's see. We'll move on to another story.
Oh, Jan Brewer. I love good Jan Brewer story.
Anything Jan Brewer related is
you don't
interesting.
tell me what to do, Matt Connarton. You don't tell me what to do. I really wanted to know what that conversation was when she was pointing that bony white finger in the president's face.
Yes. This just came today. This is from HuffPost Politics. Edwin Leslie, Jan Brewer appointee, resigns over governor's move to deny same-sex benefits. I'll read this quickly and we'll discuss.
Which governor is that?
Jan Brewer of Arizona, everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
Everyone's,
Crypt keeper.
Right-wingers love her, that's for sure. All right, I'll read this. And by the way, I'm reading this for the first time, so this is my...
It's fresh for you, too.
Yes.
Bony white finger Brewer.
Edwin Leslie was appointed to the Arizona Tourism Advisory Council by Governor Jan Brewer in 2010. On Tuesday, he stepped down from his position in protest of the governor's latest move against same-sex benefits for state employees. Leslie, who lives with his partner and their son in Phoenix, announced his resignation in a letter to Brewer. In it, he decries the governor's recent decision to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn an earlier federal court ruling that allowed state-employed workers to keep same-sex partners on their benefits. The court's decision had found unconstitutional the part of a 2009 measure passed by the state legislature and approved by Brewer that prevented benefits such as health insurance from being shared by such couples. The governor's decision to combat the court's ruling is, quote, in direct conflict with your reiteration that all Americans are entitled to the same inalienable rights, unquote, Leslie wrote, referring to the Independence Day address given last week by Brewer. He continues, quote, the LGBT community, of which I'm a proud part, deserves all of the same rights, privileges, and liberties as every American, be it in domestic partner benefits, adoption, marriage, or any other rights that are so freely enjoyed by every other person in the U.S. It is my hope that one day the state of Arizona leads the nation in extending benefits to LGBT families, allowing same-sex marriage and adoption, and show that everyone is welcome in Arizona, unquote. You know what? I already have a solution to this, and I'm not even done reading this. What if
your pink papers? Sorry.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. If gay people were to carry papers that say that they're gay and citizens, and that would solve everything.
Or they should wear something like maybe an upside down pink triangle.
Yes,
I think that
yes.
worked in 1939 Poland.
Yes, exactly. That way they can be easily identified.
Yes, and put into worker camps.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you're re-educated
yes.
and you get out the gay.
Along with the brown people who need to carry their papers.
Yes.
The browns and the gays.
It's a good idea. Very practical. Practical solutions for a troubled time in this country.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal that from you.
It's a little bit more here. Leslie goes on to claim Brewer's action will end up damaging the state's tourism industry, which sees significant revenues from members of the LGBT community. Well, it's almost like they go on vacation like regular people.
How dare they?
I know. He also charges that the governor has chosen to, quote, discriminate against one part of the state's residents to appease a small fraction of the population, unquote, citing a recent poll that shows the state's residents to be largely supportive of gay marriage rights. Wow, you'd almost think it was 2012 or something.
I know. How dare they?
I know. Brewer spokesperson Matthew Benson responded to the decision, accusing Leslie of attempting to politicize his resignation and claiming that the issue, quote, isn't about gay domestic partners, unquote. Well, then what the hell is it about? According to Benson, the move to deny benefits to same-sex couples is instead about cost control.
Fuck you.
Brewer,
Pardon my language.
Brewer, quote, doesn't believe in ceding to a federal court the authority of Arizona's duly elected officials, unquote. It was settled law. It was already that. The Arizona Republic relays some of the most recent figures about the current status of the state's recipients of same-sex benefits. The state has 230 active state and university employees and 3 retirees who receive same-sex domestic medical coverage, according to figures from the state Department of Administration. Currently, they cost the state $1.8 million yearly for their claims and dependence claims. In comparison, Michael McFall, publisher of the Arizona Pride Guide, tells the Republic that LGBT tourism brings in about $122 million to the state annually. So Jan Brewer, as some Republicans do, appealing to the, shall we say, the worst instincts of conservatism.
Well, you know what's wrong with the GOP is that
is that a man like Mitt Romney can make a speech at the NAACP? That's one thing that's wrong with the GOP.
and screw them.
Yeah, but received 2 boos.
Yeah.
By the way.
Well, yes, he did. What's wrong with the GOP is they seem to think that the 99% should be paying all the taxes, but not receive any of the rights. For example, gay people are a big contributor to our society when it comes to income and taxes, but for the amount of services that they receive compared to straight people, why are they paying all these taxes then?
Yeah. And it's not like
I thought we lived in a democracy.
As a gay man, I have no other choice than to pay taxes for this country, or I'll get arrested.
And it's the same thing with it isn't only the GOP taxes that they have a problem with. They also have a problem with the voting rights. They're not trying to suppress
gays. Should not vote.
Gays, African Americans, even women. If they could go back in time, they would go back to the 1800s.
Since 1953.
Yeah, they would go back. And it's
vote Eisenhower.
And so now they want to punish the federal attorney, the national attorney general, because Florida didn't follow the law. Well, Florida needs to follow the law. And who's the governor of Florida? Governor Scott, who happens to be a GOP and doesn't think that they need to follow the federal law.
That's right. How dare they?
That's right.
I'm sorry. This article that you're reading, there's something in there that made me want to punch my computer earlier. Because
really?
I was reading also about the
you punch your computer, eh?
Governor Romney speaking at the NAACP. Why would you not want to read something about that?
Right.
The whitest GOP candidate they could find speaking for the North American Association for Colored People.
And if he picks Tim Pawlenty, it'll be the whitest Republican ticket.
At least they gave him his due.
Yes, they let him speak.
More than what he would do to them.
Right. But I'm sorry, there was something that he had mentioned within the speech talking about being non-discriminatory that made me want to punch my computers because he mentioned race, religion, and sexual orientation.
Actually, there's 2 things he left out of his speech that were saying on the news. He left faith out, and I forget what the other one was.
But he doesn't want to talk about faith.
Wants to bring up his Mormonism.
No, of course not. That's why he didn't mention faith.
Or his dressage horse.
His taxes.
So yeah.
Now he's saying that he has a trustee, and the trustee is a volunteer person that does all his outside stuff, and everything is reported as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, I got something to say about this blind trust thing.
Yeah,
whenever anyone tries to nail him on that and having offshore accounts and all this,
not my doing.
His response is, well, all my money, all my investments go into a blind trust.
Yes.
And then I don't see it. I don't know where it goes. That's the point of a blind trust.
How convenient.
He is on record. In 1994, he was asked about this. And he said in 1994 that anyone who tries to tell you that they don't know where their money goes when they put it into a blind trust is full of it.
Absolutely.
He said that in 1994. He's like, of course, if you put your money into a blind trust, you know where it's going. It's easy to find out. It's your money. But now, in 2012, whenever he's asked about it, I don't know. It goes into a blind trust. I don't know about offshore accounts.
He's a flip-flopper. So he's
a liar. He's a flat-out liar.
Let's start with this, what you're talking about.
He needs to do his own needs.
I was listening to the Stephanie Miller show this morning, which is a progressive radio show, and they found at least 6 clips of him repeating the blind trust, and then they showed what Matt was just talking about. They found the clip of him saying,
"Go figure."
Well, you can tell with a blind trust what to do. You know what a blind trust is doing.
Right.
All right. There's that. But the fact is that if you have money spread throughout the world, the Cayman Islands and the Bahamas, how American are you that you're hiding that money from taxation?
Right.
Just as
Plus,
but this is what sent me through the roof was saying that he's non-discriminatory against African Americans or people of all races, religion, and sexual orientation, despite just saying a few months ago, if I get elected, I'm going to hire an entirely conservative Supreme Court so that same-sex marriage never comes into law. Really? But you love the gays.
Yeah, he wants to represent everyone, yes.
Yeah.
Well, he knows what's best for you.
You know what gets me is when he stated today, or I heard it again today on the news on the blind trust, that if anything, he says, no matter where my money is and what country it's in, we pay taxes on it. Why would you hide your money in countries that don't pay taxes to begin with?
He is such a liar.
Yep.
He's just, it's not political spin. It's not bending the truth for the sake of political expediency.
Right.
He's a liar.
He also mentioned in his speech today that the African American unemployment is about 15%. He didn't say whose fault it was, just said who he think's president now.
And he's also not saying what he would do about jobs. He's just saying,
I have a plan.
President Obama has not done anything about jobs.
His solution
but
is,
I have a plan,
his
and I'm not
solution
going
is
to
I
tell
have
you
a
until
plan.
I'm elected.
That's right. And you know what? If you don't tell me before you're elected, you don't get my vote.
That's right. Now, we should, Glenn has the dictionary out because, was it last week, Glenn, we were discussing the difference? We were discussing...
Penalty and tax.
Right. The difference between penalty and tax. And my argument is that it's kind of a, and by the way, this relates obviously to Obamacare and the whole kerfuffle. What do you call it, a penalty or a tax? The Romney campaign twisted itself into a pretzel over this very question. My argument was, I think the whole thing is silly. There is such a thing as a tax penalty. Why the two terms even have to be mutually exclusive, I don't know. And then Glenn, you pointed out though something important, that a penalty, you can go to court and pay a penalty. It's like a fine, whereas a tax is administered through the IRS.
Go to jail. That would be the other choice.
Right. So, but Glenn has the dictionary out, so we're going to actually look up Webster's dictionary.
Penalty says, one says punishment and two says disadvantages.
Okay.
Well, it would be a disadvantage if you had to pay a penalty or a tax, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And the only one that would pay that tax are the ones that don't get insurance.
Right.
Now, on tax,
something you don't want to step on.
It says compulsive payment to a government. To a government, then it says burden, strain, levy. It's a levy. It's a fine. Or make pay a tax. It's a burden. Accused and charged. Well, you would be accused and charged of not following the law by not getting insurance. Your penalty would be the tax. Right. So it means the same thing.
Well, that was my point.
It means the same thing, but to an average American, a tax is far much more worse than a penalty.
And that's the reason why the GOP insists that it's a tax and not a penalty.
Right. So therefore, we go back to Massachusetts.
The president had to lie.
Romney Care, it's now a tax.
That's right.
Oh, not according to him. So because Massachusetts is different. It's a state.
It's a Commonwealth.
Yeah, really.
And actually, I agree that as you guys know, that is the one thing I will defend Romney on. I think that it does make a difference if it's at the state level or the federal level.
But you also have to agree that the Obamacare was based on the Romney Care of Massachusetts.
Yes. Based on some of the principles.
A lot of it, most of it was. The major plan was the punishment.
So that's why nationwide, if we call it a tax, we go back to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and let's call it a tax. Let's just do that across the board.
That would be appropriate.
But Romney Care, yes, is a lot different because it is statewide. Matt and I are in agreement on this one.
And it was originally a conservative idea.
Yes.
It came out of the Heritage Foundation, I think.
It's the GOP that did it.
That's right. Of course, now they want nothing to do with it.
No.
Well, it's not popular.
Chris, you said something interesting that caught my ear. I did see earlier the clip of Romney being booed at the NAACP speech that he gave when he mentioned repealing Obamacare. But you said he was booed twice?
Yeah, what was the other issue?
What else was he booed for?
Let me see if it's in this.
Please do. It's in one of the articles I was reading, I think, on Yahoo News, but it could possibly.
So he was booed definitely when it came to the Obamacare, right?
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm gonna repeal the Obamacare. Sorry, that's my. Sounds a lot like Thurston Howell when I do it.
Well, while you're going through that, why don't we say what happened today in the House? Was it the 33rd time? Is it?
Yeah, maybe 33rd's the charm. Trying to repeal or make amends to.
So we have a Congress that if they don't like what the law is, especially when the Supreme Court says that's the law, they will still try to appeal. It
Oh, and
doesn't
this time-
matter if it hurts people.
This time, 5 Democrats side with the GOP to repeal the health care
Yes,
law.
and you know
Recently,
why?
Up until recently, it'd been about 3.
Interesting.
Those 5 people, they were expected to. They were expecting about half a dozen, so they had 5. Those were people that have strong primaries come this fall for the in the House seats,
Romney
and they
draws
were
jeers
being
against
pushed by the
GOP.
Republican Party, Democrats that that would be an issue, and so they sided for it.
Well, I'm
Cowards.
sorry. Obamacare was unpopular, according to polling, until a majority of Americans oppose it.
Romney Care was unpopular when it first started.
Right, until the Supreme Court ruled on it. Now that the Supreme Court ruled on it, if you look at polls, those numbers have flipped, and more Americans support it now. Let's see. I found an article.
I will say, in
twice.
the defense of that, is that it is true that a lot of us Americans.
First when he announced his name.
A lot of
I'm
us.
Mitt Romney. Boo.
A lot of us Americans do feel that they need to go over that bill before it becomes completely law by 2014 and get rid of the things that are not just too costly but would not benefit the people. Do the right thing. But to get rid of the bill and hurt 100 million people that are already on it, that's not a solution.
Right.
It's a problem. It's an added problem.
Well, it's also not going to happen.
No. Not going to happen. Even though he becomes president, it's not going to happen.
Let's see. I want to see where the other time he was booed is. I'll just read the article. This is from the Telegraph.
The New Hampshire Telegraph.
No, not the New Hampshire one, but from Washington.
Okay, the Washington Telegraph.
The Republican presidential candidate was left looking visibly uncomfortable. Well, he always looks like that. He always looks like he's holding in a crap. As delegates at the conference in Houston, Texas, doesn't he?
Well, if you tell lies all the time, how can you feel comfortable?
That's true. Registered their displeasure after he promised to eliminate expensive non-essential programs like Obamacare. Mr. Romney's decision to address a National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was considered either brave or foolhardy, since polls show that 90% of African Americans vote Democrat. When the former Massachusetts governor pitched himself as an alternative to Mr. Obama, America's first black president, he was also met with jeering. He said, quote, "If you want a president who will make things better in the African American community, you are looking at him," he said, as his audience began to boo before adding, "Take a look." Okay, so they booed him at that, where he said that he would make things better in the African American community. So that was the first time that
I guess they don't believe him. But to be honest about it, I need to.
The other was the Obamacare.
I need to
Yes.
correct myself, Matt. It's not that he lies all the time, because he wouldn't call it a lie. He'd say, "I'm only giving you the half truths."
Yes.
To me, there's not much difference.
He's
Right.
He's saying exactly what he needs to say at these events in order
He
to get elected.
appeases the public
Because
that's there.
It's my time. It's my turn.
Yeah. So I
running
don't
for
think that this
president, for
country
Pete's
really
sake.
wants to elect a president that continues to appease groups. And when it comes to your group, and nope, I'm going to change my mind so that you can be in my favor. And, oh
I
my
heard somebody
God.
say, Rick Santorum's wife must be bruised right now because all day long he goes, "See, I told you. See, I told you. See, I told you."
Now that's a good joke to bring on Friday night.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And of course, let's not forget Rick Oops Perry stating that he will not implement Obamacare in his state.
Yes, and he was saying this morning on one of the networks that
The state that has the highest number of insured people out of 50 states in this country, Texas has the highest amount of uninsured people.
Yeah.
about 100,000 families.
Yes.
I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
But he was also saying that it just happens to be that out of all the 50 states, it's Texas that the federal government hates the most. Wow, I didn't know that the federal government hated a state more than any other.
Who said that? Rick Perry?
Rick Perry said
No.
that this morning.
Oops.
Well, I do have to wonder if Romney, maybe if he had worn his, he is Mormon, if he had worn his magic underwear, maybe they wouldn't have booed him.
Who knows that he wasn't?
Ooh.
Oh, that's true. He might have.
We will never know.
Perhaps they would have booed him more if he hadn't been. Just a couple other things from this article. I'm kind of skipping down, but Mr. Romney alluded to the complex history of American race relations because, Mormons didn't always allow black people in their church, but tacitly acknowledged the Republican Party's failure to convince many black Americans it represents their interests. Well, no kidding, if 90% of them are voting Democrat.
Yeah.
He said, quote, "The Republican Party's record, by the measures you rightly apply, is not perfect. Any party that claims a perfect record doesn't know the history doesn't know history the way you know it, unquote. Asking NAACP delegates to look at him afresh, he cited his father, George Romney, as he often does.
But he's not his father.
No, he's not his father.
No, because his father showed 12 years worth of documents.
And not one.
That's right. That's right. He cited his father, George Romney, who ran for the Republican nomination in 1968 and upset many Republicans in his home state of Michigan for his strong support of black rights and the civil rights movement. He said, quote, it wasn't just that my dad helped write the civil rights provision for the Michigan Constitution, though he did. It wasn't just that he helped create Michigan's first civil rights commission, or that as governor he marched for civil rights in Detroit, although he did those things too. More than these public acts, it was the kind of man he was and the way he dealt with every person, black or white. He was a man of the fairest instincts and a man of faith who knew that every person was a child of God, unquote. However, Jamal Simmons, a Democratic political consultant and leading race relations expert, said that the reality was that Mr. Romney would have an uphill battle conquering the deep distrust felt towards the Republican Party on race and immigration issues. Yeah, and we'll let the rest of that go. That gets it out. But
I'm sure there's plenty of stories right now about Mitt Romney's visit to the NAACP. Because it makes for great political fodder.
The media on both sides, the left and the right, were already saying this morning before he even made the speech that it wasn't gonna make a difference.
No,
it just wasn't gonna make a difference.
The picture that Matt just left, he did look scared shitless in the picture.
Doesn't he? He looks like he's like he's having.
He looks like Jason Sudeikis imitating him
on
Saturday Night Live.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. You know, I came to a conclusion recently. You know, I've talked on this show about how Romney is. You know, I talked about something in common that Romney sort of has, or that the Romney campaign has in common with the Obama campaign in 2008, is that you can sort of project onto him whatever it is that you want to see. Just like with Obama in 2008, he kept things relatively vague and tried not to say too much about anything. So you could project onto him whatever you wanted. If you were a liberal, you know, you could project onto him liberalism. He's black. He's a Democrat from Chicago, very liberal area. He's probably one of us. He's a liberal.
Oprah loves him.
Oprah loves him, right? He's not going to come out and say he's a liberal because he needs the independence, but he's one of us. He's a liberal. If you were, say, a more moderate Democrat or an independent, you could look at him and say, you know what? I think he's going to govern from the center. When he talks about being a uniter, not a divider, that's code for saying, I will reach across the aisle. I will work with Republicans. I'll try to have I'll try to govern from the middle as president, much like Bill Clinton did.
Well, so it's funny how you say that, because today Romney was claiming that, as he always does when it comes to get votes, he said, I can be a Bill Clinton.
Oh, yeah. We'll come back to that because that's interesting, the Bill Clinton thing.
Really?
He's been doing that more and more lately.
Yes.
But so Obama, by
a new Democrat.
Yeah, a new Democrat, yes. So Obama played it smart by keeping things vague and talking about these nebulous concepts of hope and change, and that allowed you as a voter, if you supported him, to project onto him whatever it is that you wanted to see. Romney, I have felt, has done the same thing, but had to go about it in a different way. Romney can't play it by necessarily being vague, although he is now in the general election. During the primary season, though, you know, he couldn't get away with not saying anything about anything because he had already said too much. When he was governor of Massachusetts, he governed as a very moderate to liberal Republican. And now, to win the nomination, he had to pretend to be this uber conservative. So he allowed you, though, by using that strategy during the primary season, you could project onto him whatever you wanted to see. If you wanted to see a true conservative Republican, you could look at him and say, well, he used to act like a liberal in Massachusetts, but he was just playing the game. That's what you have to do to survive as a Republican in Massachusetts. But now he's shown his true colors, and he's one of us. He's a true conservative Republican, a modern Republican. And if you were an independent or a moderate or even a Democrat, a disaffected Democrat, you could look at him and say, oh, no, I get it. I see what he's doing. He's playing the game now. He's saying and doing what he has to say and do to mobilize the base of the party to win the Republican nomination, but he's really one of us. He's a moderate. He's not scary. Independents, we don't have to worry about him. He'll be okay. Just let him get in there and he'll be fine. He'll govern from the center.
You think so?
So Romney, well, I don't think so anymore. And here's the thing. So Romney, just like Obama, allows you to an extent to project onto him whatever it is you want to see. but he had to use a different strategy to do it. Now that he's in the general election, he's using the Obama strategy, being very vague. He talks about repeal and replace with Obamacare. Replace it with what? He won't tell us because there's nothing there. Have you seen his economic plan? It's basically 5 sentences. He hasn't given any kind of big policy speech or anything with any details. He's keeping things very vague.
Have you seen his job plan?
Immigration, no, there isn't one. Immigration, he's keeping things very vague. He sways this way, he sways that way.
I love the immigration one. I will tell you what the plan is when I become president.
Yes, of course.
I want to hear it now.
Of course, exactly. Foreign policy, he doesn't want to talk about it too much. He'd rather focus on the economy. Here's the thing. I have realized something. I fell into the camp of, until recently, and I kind of had an epiphany. I was never a Romney supporter. However, I at least was able to convince myself that, okay, which is the real Mitt Romney? Is it the conservative or is it the liberal to moderate from Massachusetts? And I thought my instincts were telling me, you know what? I'm not afraid of a Romney presidency because even though I don't support him, I don't like him, I don't want to see him in the White House, I think ultimately he really is a moderate, and he played the game to win the nomination, but I think he really is a moderate. I think he really is Romney. Yeah. This is what I was thinking, right? But then I realized something. He will not govern as a moderate. By the way, I think my instinct was partially correct. I think in his heart, he is a moderate. I don't think he really cares or thinks that much about a lot of these social issues. I really don't think he does. I think he wants to
help deal with that.
Yeah, I think he wants to run the economy. But
he's never had to have dealt with that. He's never been poor. He doesn't know what it is.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Let the help deal with
Right. He can't relate to average Americans.
Let the staff handle the gay people.
Right.
I've got better things to do.
I don't think he cares. I don't think he honestly really cares about any of that. So I think in that regard, I was correct. However, what I've realized is that doesn't mean that he'll govern from the center, because ultimately he will do whatever the party tells him to do.
Correct.
He will be a puppet. So I do now fear a Romney presidency because I've come to the conclusion that as the Republican Party continues to move further to the right, as the Tea Partiers continue to use their influence to drag the party in that direction, ultimately Romney will go whichever way the wind blows and whichever way he's being pulled to maintain his base of support. And Romney this guy will never stand up to his own party on anything. He will never,
especially if
not as long as he can be president.
Right, exactly.
And he will pander to the 1%.
He will, absolutely.
Well, he's doing it now with he specifically says that there's no way that we should stop the Bush taxes. We should renew them.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Because it works so well.
Yes. Where are all these jobs? Give us the tax break and we'll create all these thousands of jobs.
Yeah. Where are these jobs? Who are employed, we are still suffering.
Right.
In the middle class.
But ultimately, Romney will do whatever he has to do to maintain his presidency and to win a second term. From the minute he gets in, if he gets in, from day one, it will be all about, okay, now for the next 4 years, how do I win that second term? And he will do whatever he has to do to maintain that base of support. And if that means giving himself over to the far right fringe extreme of the Republican Party, he will happily do so with that fake, phony, painted-on smile on his face and that and that very forced fake laugh that he has. He'll do whatever he has to do. He'll say whatever he has to say. He'll pander. It'll be exactly the same as his campaign. The campaign will not end. The pandering that you see now will continue, and it will go on for the next 4 years. Yeah, absolutely.
But we need to ask the question.
He's Guy Smiley.
How?
He is Guy Smiley.
Yes.
That's
how
who he is.
Mitt Romney, in the Republican primary, of all the candidates that were running, how did he ever stay on top? Because the party, when he first started, it wasn't there for him. What happened is Gingrich was not liked because of the past.
Right.
Perry ended up being not very educated.
A buffoon.
Buffoon, that's a good word for it. And go down the road like that and say, wait a minute.
The clown show.
Imploded.
That's how
they imploded upon themselves.
And that's how
Michelle Bachmann cover of Newsweek.
You have to admit, Romney did play smart during the primary. He kind of...
Oh, sure he did. Oh, absolutely. He won the nomination. You can't deny his success. I mean, he played it right.
He played it
He
smart.
did. He
But
did,
now
and
he
he did
can't
well
do that now
during the
because he's
debate.
by himself.
Right.
He can't blame
And
it
it's
on another
not-
candidate. The other
Yeah.
candidate is Obama.
And it's
Yep.
not looking good for him. I think
It's
ultimately
close,
it will be
It's still
close
44
because
to
it's a
46
divided
on the
country.
national level.
But I do think unless the economy really tanks, not that it's great now, but we are in recovery.
There is one way they can win, you know.
How?
If they steal the election.
Yes.
Like if
Or buy
Florida is allowed to suppress the votes that they did in 2000.
Mhm.
If not all the votes are counted and the Supreme Court decides one more time who is our president when it actually should be us that make that decision. That's my biggest fear
Yes.
because it's going to be
Everyone's
very
biggest
close.
fear, but the problem is America's become so apathetic is the word. We just don't care. It's like we make
Until
a big
it happens
fuss,
and they
but
wonder
once
why
it
it
happens,
happened.
it'll be, what are you gonna do about it? America, what are you gonna do about it? That's what our motto should be right now.
But we
Not-
are the America.
Not land of the free, home
It's
of
the
brave.
people that are
We
the America. So if we don't do
Yeah.
anything about it, they're in
Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna Facebook it. That's it. Just like I think Mitt Romney's slogan should be, I've got better things to do. That's it. When it comes to social issues, I've got better things to do.
I do need to find, and we'll wrap up shortly, but I do need to find, I need to figure out who I'm going to vote for because I have decided, gentlemen, and I don't know if I've told you this or if I've shared this with the audience. I don't think I have, but I voted for Obama in 2008. Some things I'm happy with, some things I'm not. I'd probably be saying the same thing if John McCain had become president. Although I was proud to vote for the first black president. I didn't know if we'd ever see that in my lifetime. So that made me feel good. And there are some things, actually, there are many things about Obama that I do like, and some things I don't. But I have decided that, I have to walk the walk. And I rail a lot on this show against the two-party system. And I talk about how both parties in Washington are fundamentally corrupt and evil, and they're completely, both parties, Democrats and Republicans, they're completely owned by the banking system and Wall Street and big pharma and big oil and whoever else.
On.
And so I think it's important to, from now on, I'm only voting for independents or people like in the primary. Actually, the first Republican I have ever voted for in my life, I voted for Buddy Roemer, because he was the only one out there talking about the money in politics and how it poisons everything and how something needs to be done. He was the only guy doing it. So come November, even if I have to write, maybe I'll write in Jesse Ventura, who I love, who expresses a lot of the same thoughts I have.
Why don't you write in Matt Connarton?
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll write in Matt Connarton Unleashed for president. But
I'd vote for that.
But Jesse Ventura has been saying in multiple interviews lately, talking about how everybody in Washington should have to wear the NASCAR outfits, where you can see clearly who donates to their campaigns because there's patches all over their outfits. And the first time I heard him say that, I was gleeful because he was saying something that I've been saying, and I thought,
especially
well,
with these super PACs.
yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
But let's not be cynical though, because if
It's our God-given right to be
if
cynical.
5 or
Wrong show.
10% of the voters were to put in somebody else's name that's not even on the ballot, we may wake up in the morning and say, "Oh, what did we do?" Remember that.
Mhm.
I hate this saying.
President Baba Booey.
I hate.
How did that happen?
I hate this saying where people say, "Well, it come down to a choice. You have to vote
Vice
the
President
best of
Snooki.
both evils."
The lesser of two evils. Yeah.
I hate that, but you know what? I think it's come to that.
Oh, it already came to that.
I'd love
Well,
to see
yeah, but
Jesse.
it's
That's,
still
that's
there.
how I always vote.
And until we solve that problem, if we all vote for Mickey Mouse, he may not get in, but you may get a Mickey Mouse president in there.
So in other words,
Be careful what you vote
so in other
for.
words, you're saying be careful of a Ralph Nader scenario.
Yes. Be
I'd love
careful.
to see a Jesse Ventura Donald Trump debate. I don't know why those two just seem like
They'll
they'd be
pull each
awful
other's-
candidates.
they'll
Well,
pull each
that's
other's
so
hair.
with Jesse Ventura.
It'd be the most charismatic presidential
absolutely.
debate ever.
And it'd be taking place in Vegas.
I think they would
There'd
pull
be
each other's hair.
fireworks and women.
They both
with
have plenty
just
of hair.
tassels.
They both have plenty of hair.
Yeah.
Jesse Ventura doesn't.
No,
He's
he does
bald.
not.
Oh, what happened? He used to have a lot of
Oh,
hair.
it's all in the back now. It's in a
Yeah.
ponytail.
Oh,
in the
well,
back.
Donald will love to pull it, you know
Yeah.
that. And he'll lose his front hair.
Yeah.
Ventura will pull his front.
Jesse Ventura. Yes.
I love Jesse Ventura. Anyway, I guess that's gonna do it for. Was there anything else? Did you guys have anything else? I feel
No,
like
now I'm thinking of like a
No,
president,
it's just-
Chris Christie, because he is fairly popular in New Jersey.
it may very well happen down the
Actually,
road.
Yeah, the
Well,
only
it's
the
still
only
young.
other thing I can think of
Still young.
nationally is the war right now going on between Viacom and DirecTV.
I don't know much about that. Enlighten us. I've only heard a little bit. It
Due
sounds
to
like
contract disputes,
Yes, exactly what it
as
is.
of last night at midnight Eastern, the 20 million DirecTV subscribers lost Viacom channels, which include MTV, VH1, BET, Nickelodeon, and Comedy Central.
Wow, no kidding.
Yes. And that's Nickelodeon and all of the Nickelodeon affiliates, Nick at Night, Teen Nick,
Yeah.
the Kid Nick.
They were also saying this morning that for people who had the disc, the satellite, they
the
pay.
dish. Yeah.
They pay. It's not a pack. It's a package, but not like cable. You pay for the channel. On cable, it's all bundled.
Right.
Yes.
And so
and
you have channels that you don't
actually,
want, but you're stuck with it.
Right now, Dish, Direct, and Comcast, I think those are the three biggest subscribers, one cable, two Dish. Not actually, they don't offer that. You can't. Right now, you can't pick and choose every channel that you want. Some
But a
of
lot
them are
better.
offering you some packages.
But a
you want
lot
the
better
movie.
than cable does.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
On regular cable does.
So right now, so DirecTV has lost Viacom channels. Dish Network last month dropped AMC and its AMC affiliates, so things like Mad Men and Breaking Bad.
And Nick Flick lost its movies from Encore and what's the other one?
Stars.
Stars.
It used to do
and
Stars
that was
on
a
demand.
big thing for them.
Yep. So it's contract disputes. It's basically what it comes down to. I think it's Viacom is saying we're looking to up our contract by about $1 billion, which really amounts to 1 cent a day for every DirecTV subscriber, and the DirecTV saying, well, we don't want to up our prices so that it falls onto the subscribers. So
I'm still convinced that
really, what does it matter when you can still get your content
on the
internet? But here's what people don't think is if this doesn't get changed, Viacom is not going to be able to start affording to pay its network affiliates. It's not going to be able to pay Comedy Central, so Comedy Central will not be able to afford the salaries of Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert.
I think that a lot of the in-house fighting, between these groups is because of the internet. We know for a fact that in the next 5 to 10 years, because it's already starting, you'll be getting most of your networks off the internet. The new HDs now have a chip in there that are compatible to your internet, so that you can plug it right in. And right now they are offering TV channels out of the internet. And even Comcast
and new content
realizes
is
that.
Coming out.
They are in the process of buying out other corporations because they know it's going to happen. So there's a big change coming. And you know what's making it the bigger change? It's not the companies because they're stuck with it. It's the technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
The new technology is forcing the change, and it's a good thing for we the Americans.
You have one of these.
It's
pretty
good
soon
thing
you'll
for
be
the
able
people.
to watch it on your watch.
Yeah, really.
And that's what it's going to be. It's watch.
Yeah.
Why is it called a watch? Because you can watch TV on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of for me as somebody who's in entertainment, who enjoys entertainment. I should say I'm not really in entertainment because we're not really entertaining.
You're not? I thought you just did tonight.
I disagree. I say
I was waiting.
We're the best thing on television.
But
we should be we should be on DirecTV.
I think we should.
Why aren't we? Let's make that happen.
They are moving scripted content to
in
the
the next
internet.
2
That's
years,
the other thing.
maybe less, but in the next 2 years, there's a very good chance, over 50% chance, that QCE News and maybe if IPM Nation joins QCE News, we're gonna have our own channel off the cable.
Very good.
So they're be careful what we say. We are being
who you vote for.
We are being watched for a lot more people than they don't want us to know.
Yes, we're coming.
Right,
we're coming.
Well, before we wrap up, Glenn, since you brought up programming, do you want to mention, because I know that there's a lot of new programming being added to QCnews.com?
Yes, we have We're at large on Friday nights from 8 to 10 p.m.
Eastern time.
Which, not this Friday, but next Friday on the 19th, will be 9 months old. We're getting there. We're now crawling.
We'll be ready to
taking baby steps.
We'll be exiting the womb.
Actually, we're taking big steps because today I closed the Queen City Examiner checking account and opened a new one underneath the new title, QC News Media Services, which includes the Queen City Examiner as well as the radio TV.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in the process of creating a coup in the next month.
A coup?
Remember AmCam? That's all I'm going to say. It's coming back.
All right. Very good. A
as
coup.
a different channel. The people do have power, and if you give yourself a break and do what's right, and stop pandering to the parties, you can make changes.
Yes.
But the other thing we have your show. We have on Sundays after that we have VE verbal ejaculation from 9:30 to 11ish. And then on Wednesdays we have Matt Connarton Unleashed from 8 to 9ish. But now we also have Leveling the Playing Field. Howard McCarthy's getting ready to come on board.
Oh, very good.
We miss Howard.
Yes.
We have a lot of religious programs, so much so that by fall we'll have our own religious station on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
We have Mill City
Teleproductions,
which is sports, theater, and concerts. Mostly it's concerts. This week alone, we did 12 live programming. These aren't my programs.
Mm-hmm.
I do one. And about almost 18 hours of programming. It's getting there.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And to think we're doing it out of a small office. That's what.
For now.
For now. We have plans on that too.
Right now, this isn't an office. This is Studio F, ladies.
F.
Is it
Yeah.
F?
Studio F.
I want to show you my Studio F.
I'm not going to go there.
I thought.
I will only say that, remember tomorrow night at 7:30 at Veterans Park, in town, Manchester has its first in a series of 5 every Thursday of concerts sponsored by TD Bank. Also tomorrow from 4 to 5 p.m., an ambassador from Egypt who happens to live in Manchester, we will be discussing on Willette at Large on most of the hour, Egypt.
Oh, very good.
And what really happened, what went wrong in Egypt.
That'll be interesting.
Yes.
And why we're still paying that government $4 billion of taxpayers' American money, and we're getting nothing for it.
Wow.
So we're getting there. Otherwise than that, next week you have a guest?
Nope, nobody lined up yet.
We gotta get one.
But you can, of course, tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Matt Connarton Unleashed, the television edition. And, of course, I also have my Express edition, my 30-minute podcast, 30 minutes or less, delivery always free. That is always up. That is already up for this week. I said things that will make religious people extremely angry if you listen to this week's. So please check that out.
Wow.
And I think God himself is probably going to punch me in the face. And of course,
You're going to lose your nose?
I hope not. And Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, the radio edition, which is live of Matt Connarton Unleashed. That is a full hour. Last week's went for about an hour, well, almost 2 hours, actually. Also, too, I want to remind everybody, of course, Glenn talked about what's going on in Manchester tomorrow night. You can come check that out. Or if you're also in New Hampshire, but a little further north, you can come say hi to me tomorrow night at a club called The Heat at Weirs Beach, right here in New Hampshire in the Lakes region. I will be there with Annie from The Planet, 100.1 The Planet, WPNH in Plymouth. We will be there at The Heat. Mindset X is playing. It is a local outbreak event. Local Outbreak is, of course, the show, the FM show that I host on 100.1 The Planet, which you can hear. If you're in the Lakes region, you can hear Local Outbreak Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. and Sunday nights at 10 p.m. on 100.1 The Planet. And, of course, all the shows are also archived right on IPMNation.com. So check out my FM radio show where I talk with local musicians. And so if you're in the New Hampshire area, please support local music. Wherever you are, please support the local music scene. It's important.
In the very near future, starting July 28th for 4 weeks, 4 Saturdays in a row, we have local festivals here in the city, which we'll be covering.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of good stuff.
Going outside, we're going to stay home and cover it.
Yep, absolutely. I don't think I gave the times for tomorrow night, by the way. That event runs from 6:30 to 8:30 if you show up. It's kind of an early one. So.
Oh, and tomorrow night, if you go to the park, bring your chairs or sit on the lawn.
Yes. And if you come to the Heat, you don't have to bring a chair. If you come
They
have
provide
chairs.
chairs.
Yeah, they actually have chairs you can sit in.
Oh,
Excellent.
nice.
Or laps you can sit on.
You can sit on a lap. You know,
You can sit on a lap.
you'll want to make sure you're invited to do so, but you don't just want to walk in and sit on someone's lap. Make sure that it's okay with the person whose lap you're sitting on. And on that note, we shall wrap up. This is where we have to stall for a moment while Glenn goes and shuts us off. Thank you, Glenn R.J. Willette.
Glenn R.J. To our live viewers who are watching right now on IPMNation.com, Stay tuned at 11 p.m. for an all-new Mansterdam.
Yes.
The boys are returning tonight from their vacation.
Mansterdam.
And that's also TV23 in the Manchester area. So
absolutely,
that's all I've got to say.
That's gonna do it. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you soon.
Good night.
Okay.